Here's the ball from Campos, back post, falls right in front of the keeper, shot, save.
This story will change your perspective on hard work and will greatly benefit you in your own career. But first, my name is Andrew Pannenberg. I am a professional goalkeeper for Carolina Core FC and MLS Next Pro. It's my mission to help young goalkeepers like you build the mindset, habits, and skill set to dominate on the field and get to your next level. If you get any value out of this video, like, subscribe, share. The bigger we build this community, it'll be a win-win for both of us. Back in December of 2016, I graduated early from high school so I could start playing college soccer at Wake Forest University a semester early. The Wake team had made it to the national championship at the end of 2016, and I was the only freshman who graduated early coming into that 2017 season. So needless to say, it was a tough time for me to come in because the team had already been together for an entire fall and they were super close, and I was the only one joining for that spring season. So I got there and man, I worked really hard all spring, but truth be told, it was a difficult spring for me because, like I said, guys on the team were already pretty close, and I had set the intention in my head of being the starter right away in the fall, and I knew that there were a lot of things in my game I had to work on in order to get to that point. So I just spent a lot of time that spring just working on all those aspects of my game and pretty much doing nothing else. I would just go to the dining hall, go to class, go to practice, do stuff on extra work on my own, and then just hang out in my room. I didn't really hang out with any of my teammates. I didn't really go out to like any parties or anything like that. I told myself, man, when I'm the starter in the fall, I'll do all that. So just spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time working hard. And there were some good moments that spring. I played in a couple games and did well, but overall, it was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes in practice, a lot of getting yelled at, some mistakes in games. I remember our last spring game, we beat UVA like 5-0, and I didn't even play because I practiced so bad that week in training, and I remember my coach telling me that. So it was a tough spring. I learned a lot, grew a lot, but it was tough. And so I went into that summer. I was planning on playing USL2 for the Charlotte Eagles. I thought this was my opportunity to get some games, to prepare myself for the fall. I get in, and there's two other keepers on the team as well. James Pyle, one of my good friends to this day, he was actually a rising senior at UNC Chapel Hill and one of the best goalkeepers in the ACC at the time. And then there was another older goalkeeper as well. So I got there and quickly found out that those were going to be the two keepers playing mostly. So I went from a tough spring in college into a tough summer where I wasn't playing games. I was just training a ton. It was a hot summer. There were a lot of games, and I would train a lot of times right before the games. 5 o'clock with my goalkeeper coach on the hot turf right before the game. I ended up playing one game that season, and we ended up winning the national championship. But again, it was a difficult summer for me. Worked really hard, did well in the one game that I got, but definitely wasn't the summer I was expecting personally, just for playing time and all that. At the end of that summer, I was going into my fall season, and I was thinking, okay, man, this is it. I put in all this work all summer, all this work all spring long, and this is where it's going to pay off. So I get in the fall and work hard in preseason. Our first game comes and I don't start. Second game comes, I don't start. Third game comes, I'm not starting. And it quickly seemed to me that I wasn't going to be the consistent starter, at least for the beginning of the season. And that was tough to take, man, just because I'd worked hard all summer, all spring long. I remember after maybe like our 6th game or something like that, we won. And I remember being on the phone with my parents, one of my parents just like crying and talking about how much I missed playing games and being on that field. It was tough because I had always been the man in academy. I'd always been playing all the games. And so I remember just being really frustrated. And that night was like a Tuesday night game. So that Friday, we were actually playing Clemson, and it was our biggest game of the season yet. We were number 1, they were number 3. It was our only nationally televised game of the whole season. Thursday morning was the day before the game practice. We show up, we break it down in the huddle, and then usually field players go this way, goalkeepers go this way. So the goalkeepers, we run off and we start warming up, and our goalkeeper coach goes, "Where's the Spaniard?" He was referring to the starting goalie at the time. I look around and he wasn't there. And it was kind of strange, wondering, oh, where's this guy at? He's in the bathroom or something like that. We start training and he's still not there. 15, 20 minutes later, you see him running up to the field. He's wearing regular clothes as well. And it turns out that he accidentally overslept. And so he didn't train that day. Our coach had a big rule that if you're late to training, you don't train. And if you don't train, you don't play. Leaving training that day, I had a pretty decent idea that I actually might be starting this game against Clemson the next day, our biggest game of the season, like I said. The rest of the day happens. I wake up the next day and I have a text from my head coach. He says, hey, come meet me in the office. I meet him in the office the day of the game. And he tells me, hey, look, obviously there's a situation that happened yesterday. He said, you've still been training really well, and so I want to give you the start for tomorrow. So I leave the office. And I'm like, man, I'm starting tonight in our biggest game of the season. I was just so shocked by how quickly things changed. So I'm super excited. Show up to the game. They announced my name on the lineups and everything.
A freshman goalkeeper from Charlotte, North Carolina, number 0, Andrew Pannenberg.
Such a cool moment, my first college moment. We start the game up 1-0, and then right before halftime, they get a free kick, a wide free kick, and score, and it ended up being 1-1 at halftime. We go into the second half, we score, we're up 2-1, and we're holding on the rest of the game. They get a free kick out wide, again, another free kick. Guy whips it into the box, and then this happens.
Around the area. Here's the ball from Campos, back post, falls right in front of the keeper, shot, save.
So I end up making the save off my face just with like 3 minutes left. And sadly, they actually scored like a minute later, which really sucked. So we end up 2-2. So we go to overtime. And back when I was in college, the overtime rules were golden goal. So if you scored, you won. Ball is in their box, pinballing around, and it gets picked up by one of my buddies, Steve Echeverria. He takes a touch, finishes, and it hits the back of the net. And one of the traditions that we have at Wake is if you score like a golden goal, an overtime goal, everyone sprints up to this wall behind one of the goals and celebrates with all the fans. And this was just a super surreal moment for me. I had dreamed of that moment. Back when I had committed to play at Wake, I had always dreamed of jumping up on that wall on a golden goal. I had always seen the team do that, you know, when I was being recruited and before coming in, and just to be able to see that ball hit the back of the net and then just book it across the field to jump up on that wall was an amazing moment. But I specifically remember going out to dinner that night. There was a restaurant that like everyone would go out to as a, you know, like with their families and stuff after the games, especially after big wins. And I remember sitting there and it was my dad and my aunt and my uncle, and it was really cool. My aunt and my uncle were there. They were planning on being there before they even knew that I was playing. But I remember sitting there with them, and I was just so happy, man. I just felt so good about the game. And then something hit me. I was thinking about that whole year and everything that I had been through, that whole spring, that whole summer, and all the games leading up to that one game in the fall. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if I knew how sweet this moment was going to be, this moment that I dreamed about for so long, I would have went through that whole year again, and I would have done it doubly as hard. I remember thinking, man, that moment was that sweet. And there's a lyric from a song. It's called All the Above by Maino, M-A-I-N-O. And it's kind of an older like rap song. And one of the lyrics jumped into my head, and it's kind of been stuck in my head for a while now. And he basically said, thank you for making me struggle. Thank you for making me grind. I perfected my hustle. Tell me the world ain't mine. So what I get from that is, man, there's a certain beauty that comes from the pain and from the struggle and from the hardship. And for me, I think if you can give yourself that perspective now that, man, when you reach that goal that you're dreaming about and that you think about all the time, man, it's going to be so sweet. It's going to make everything that you're going through right now worth it. So worth it. And it can be tough because whatever you're going through right now might feel really hard. And early morning practices, it's cold outside, summer practices, blazing hot. Like I said, that year I had it all. But in that moment, reaching my goal and feeling that moment, it made all of it worth it. And I was so proud of myself that I was like, man, I would do that all over again and doubly as hard. So right now, you have a dream. You have something that you're thinking about. And I want you to realize from this perspective that I have, that when you reach that dream, it's going to be all worth it. You're going to wish that you did doubly as more work. It was doubly as hard because it's so sweet when you reach it. But I think the most important thing is being able to give yourself that perspective right now. So while you're in the midst of the hard work, you're in the midst of the grind, you can actually put in the work to be ready for that moment. I'll go back to one of my favorite books, 3 magic words. I've talked about it before on another video, but there's a little passage that I think sticks out and relates to some of this. So he says, when we have learned life's great lesson that cause and effect are one, we have achieved that pinnacle of serenity where our labors always bear fruits of enjoyment. Anxiety, worry, fear, and doubt can no longer tempt us, for having set cause in motion, we are assured of effect. Hard work is made easy work through knowing that none of our labors is wasted. The universe exacts the utmost farthing, but returns the utmost farthing, for mutual exchange is the law. No matter the apparent thanklessness of your tasks, you can be assured that they are part of a purpose that will one day be fully revealed, a purpose grand and aspiring, which you become a part of when you keep faith and persevere. So like he said, there's a purpose for your life. There's a purpose for your dreams. God has given you your dreams for a reason, and you need to believe that. And like he said, you got to keep the faith and you have to persevere. But I hope that this story shows you that what you're going through right now and the work that you're putting in, there's a purpose for it. And it's going to be so sweet when you do get it and when you do achieve your goals. But you need to get that perspective right now and bring it back to where you're at right now and what you're going through, and put in that work right now and realize that, man, it's going to be so amazing. It's more amazing than I can even imagine, because that's how sweet that Clemson game was for me. I had dreamed about it. I thought about it. I thought it was going to be really cool. But man, it was so awesome. And I want that feeling for you. But again, that doesn't come unless you persevere right now, unless you believe right now, unless you put in the work right now, unless you make the most of the opportunities and the moments in front of you right now. So I hope this story gives you some good perspective. I hope you can bring it to whatever you're doing right now, the work that you're putting in. Take care of the work right now as much as you can. Believe in that future. Believe in that dream. Like I said, that dream has been given to you by God for a reason. And know that, man, when you get there, it's going to be so sweet. So continue to work, continue to believe, and we'll talk soon.